Hey everyone, we're going to get underway. So if folks are at the back, want to make their way to a table, grab a wrap. Thanks to our culinary students from CTE and the Black Cat for providing the meal tonight. Let's hear it. Assortment of great sandwiches over there. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dominic Pangallo. I am the mayor, I am the chair of the school committee, and I am a Salem Public School parent. So welcome to tonight's meeting. Technically a meeting of the Salem High School Building Committee, but reimagined. We have a large program to get through this evening around visioning to help guide the direction of the project. And so we're going to get started. There we go. Yeah, I got it. There we go. So I want to thank all the members of the building committee who have been working at this for the better part of several months now, including our co-chairs, Rick Jones and Nate Bryant, and all the members of the committee who've been serving. And I also want to thank the city staff, especially who've been engaged in this work, and the staff from the district who've also been working on this. This process has been a lengthy one to this point, and there's going to be a little bit more further on from Dr. Zreich about kind of how we've got here and how we're building on some of the work that's been done previously around the facility master plan, the community conversations from this past year. So I won't get too much into that. But I want to kind of ground us a little bit in the aspirations for the project and what we were hoping to achieve. And this, there we go. So like I mentioned, we're really building on some previous work that had been done before. So even though this feels like there's a lot of momentum all of a sudden, this, for many of you who have been engaged in that work, know that this has been a conversation that's been happening in this community for a long time. We need a new audio system. There we go. Another aspiration is related to this is connected to our district's own goals as reflected in our strategic plan about being an inclusive, equitable, and welcoming place where everyone has a sense of belonging. And we added safe to that. When we talk about our buildings, all right. When we talk about our buildings, it's about making a safe space for our educators and our students and our staff who are all sustainability of this project is really important. We're going to be talking about that a lot more tonight and in the weeks to come and months to come. Really, we have our own climate goals and our own emissions reduction goals to maintain our track towards being a climate leader designation from the state, but also want to make sure that we're building a building that is efficient in terms of the energy that it uses for financial reasons, as well as for obviously sustainability goals. And for the health and the wellness of the people who are working, learning, and coming and going from the facility as well. The public health aspects of the sustainable building is really critical to us. And then lastly is a facility that really maximizes our ability to leverage the financial resources that are available to us. And some of those, thank you very much. We'll see if that works now. Some of those are related to the cost of construction, but also the cost of ongoing maintenance and operation of the facility, like the utility bills, for example. I keep bringing that up because the utility bills for this particular building that we're in right now are fairly onerous and not sustainable, both in terms of the environment and the financial standpoint of the district. But also thinking about building into the future for how this facility is going to leverage the financial resources that are available to us outside of local funding. The MSBA, direct pay tax credits from the federal government, such as they may exist in the future, and other federal funding opportunities that we may be able to leverage and maximize to really get the most that we can out of the 61 acres that we're now currently standing on. So those are some of the aspirations that drove our thinking around the project and the need for it and what's kind of grounding us. But foremost among those is creating a facility where students can learn, where they can be prepared to succeed, whether they choose college or career, that their Salem High School witches are leaving prepared to succeed, whatever the path they may be on. So I would like to turn it over to, from our project team, Brooke from Perkins & Will, who's going to take us through the agenda for this evening. And we do have a lot to get through, so thank you for your patience.
All right, good evening, everyone. And we have a lot of us here from the architectural team, the design team. Stephen, Margaret is from the OPM team, Nikki, David, our educational planner, Patrick, our design principal, Brad, Eric, Dr. Etland, and others in the room, but we don't even have time to introduce us because we're gonna get started. So you saw some of the outline agenda, and our visioning session is a mix of giving you some information and most importantly, hearing from you. And we're excited to learn from you. So let's get started. What you'll, in front of you all is, everybody's gonna have to move their computers. See, I know, Anthony, I was gonna get you. So there's a press release in front of you. We want you to be aspirational and fill in the blanks. The Salem community celebrates the grand opening of the new Salem High School, empowering diverse students with opportunities too. And if you could take a pen, if you don't have one, let us know. We'll give you one, and there's some in the center. And we will call on some of you to provide your thoughts. Rick, he's going. I know, and you can take two if you want. We're looking forward to hearing what you have to say. And if you finished, you could raise your hand, and I will come to you with the microphone and love to hear your thoughts. Give you a few minutes to. No pressure, you don't have to fill it out. Only if you want to. How you doing? Are you ready, Nate? Sure. Okay, here you go.
So hi. So I'm just going to start from where I started writing. I said students with opportunities to learn, grow, and make a better way for themselves, their family, and their communities.
Pretty impressive press release. Anybody else want to follow that? Ben?
I'm a music guy, so this won't be a shock, that students have the opportunities to experience the wide range of performing arts in our brand new state-of-the-arts Performing Arts Center.
Excellent. That is aspirational, and we're going to make that happen. Anybody else? Yes, please. Thank you.
Empowering diverse students with opportunities to try new experiences and empowering families to acquire new skills, because I'd like to see us help families at night when students aren't here acquire new skills.
Perfect. That's excellent. Anybody else? Couple more, and we will collect these. We're going to document everything. So, AJ, come on. We've known each other for 26 years. Oh, you didn't write a thing.
Right, the Salem community celebrates the grand opening of the new Salem High School, empowering diverse students with opportunities to connect with their community in a safe and innovative learning environment where they will develop a foundation of skills that will set them up for a lifetime of success.
All right, one more. One more. Where's my student? Do you want to do it? You don't have to. Yes? Oh, I love that. Thank you.
Okay, so hi guys, my name is Hadassah. I am the CTE representative for tonight, and I think the most important thing to me, like getting out of the high school, I want to like build skills for my future and my career. I think that's the most important thing.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Anybody else feel the need to share, or should we keep going? Okay, we're going to collect all those, so if you keep them on the table, that would be great. Let's see. Where's Margaret? Did she just leave? We don't have extra seconds here.
Is just to let you know that we're just at the beginning of this process, that it's going to take a couple of years, but this moment right here that we're in between now and May is the most important point for community input. And in fact, so we're here tonight, we have 3 community meetings coming up. Monday here in the high school, the 3rd of December, which is a Tuesday at Saltonstall, and then on the third one is the Thursday, the 5th, which is going to be on Zoom. So please encourage people to come, because it's this moment here, which is why we're all here this evening, where we're seeking community input. So Brooke, that's all I wanted to say. You can keep on going.
All right, we're going to keep moving along. So the visioning overview, I think most of you know what this is, but we are trying to establish an equitable engagement process to strengthen advocacy while aligning priorities for the Salem project. And a lot of you talked about equity, and we believe that is an important factor. I'm not going to read all this, but the idea is to engage in a diverse group of stakeholders, which we have here, which is amazing. Thank you all for showing up. And we're going to work together in the next 3 hours to just hear a little bit about what you're thinking. So we're going to give you a little presentation, and we're going to hear back from you. So this is something that we do in our studio. We love this slide. Encourage wild ideas. Now is the time to be aspirational, be bold, defer judgment, build together, stay focused, be visual, and go for quantity. So I think everybody here, especially Mary. Mary's going to help me, I know, tonight. She promised. And then we use words like I like, which is defining what went well. I wish, how can we further develop those ideas and change them or improve them? And you're all welcome to use this in the classroom, because once we saw this, we use these words in all of our meetings, and it really changes the tenor of the meeting. And I wonder, those way to provide suggestions, ideas, and clarifications. So it's our framework, and please feel free. So right now we're exploring, we're discovering and engaging, we're listening to each other, we're consolidating themes, and that's the exploration process. Then we'll build consensus. We're going to actually take these ideas in the program and develop options and where spaces go and how big they are. We'll do that. We're going to document it and assess the feasibility of concepts. And we're in that phase now where we're going to go through programming, we're going to go through visioning, and we're going to develop a program and then some concepts, which we will bring further. We are also going to have surveys for students and faculty and community members, and we're working on that now. Dr. Etlin is helping us with that, and we're going to learn more tonight, so then we'll complete that to give to the committee for review. So we'll get a lot of ideas from these surveys, and we'll get some great graphics to help support the ideas. We will share all of this with you. So we're going to talk about a little bit about the work we've done before and how we're building on that prior work.
Good evening, everybody. Do I need the mic?
Yes.
Good evening. I did want to just call out, I want to acknowledge that we have a couple school committee members here tonight. I want to call out Mary Manning, who's over here, and AJ Hoffman. So I want to thank them for being here. From the committee, they have an important decision. They have important decisions down the road. I also really want to call out the fact that we have 4 students with us today, and I'm really excited that they're here to share their voices. And it's really important in these decisions that our students inform as much of the process. Lacey is here. Raise your hand, Lacey. There you are. Keshley, who I just met in my office a few weeks ago. She didn't do anything wrong. Don't worry. She was advocating, nothing wrong. And then Thais, where's Thais over there? And then you, Dessa already spoke, so I'm really happy to have you all here. Yeah, let's give them a big round of applause for being here. And I'm also very appreciative of all the staff from the Salem Public Schools that are here as well, and it's important that we get the voices of educators in this project. Just a few things. I want to just remind folks, this isn't the first time we've listened to the community or talked to the community about this project. In 21-22, right, in the heart of COVID, really, and some of you in this room were part of those conversations, we engaged in a massive master plan process, and we spoke to over 600 stakeholders. A lot of it was in Zoom with masks, and it was, but we got a lot of engagement. There were surveys, we had workshops, there were community forums, and while that doesn't seem that long ago, it feels like a decade ago or more. But in those conversations, we heard a lot from folks about taking the opportunity that if we got a new building project, that we might rethink the grade configuration and rethink how students are enrolled in the Salem Public Schools. And there were 4 things that were on the table at the time. There was the current operational model, which is, really Salem has a little bit of everything right now, but then looking at a pre-K to 5 district-wide, then a middle school, 6 to 8, and then a high school. The third was looking at K-8 district-wide, which we just recently made a decision that we're no longer going to have K to 8s, but that was on the table at the time. And then the fourth was sort of a newer idea that we would think about having pre-K to 6 schools, and then a junior, senior high, which would be 7 to 12. There was a range, and this report is available. You can read it at your leisure. But there were a range of different perspectives, and there were a range of pros and cons, both in terms of the financial costs, benefits, and challenges. There was a lot of interest in this. I wouldn't say that it was overwhelming, but there was a lot of interest in this idea of a 7 to 12. And for that reason, when we applied to the MSBA, we used this study to apply to the MSBA. It helped our application tremendously. We did ask to do a study. We did ask to look at the possibility of a 7 to 12 and a 9 to 12. And lo and behold, when they accepted our proposal, we got accepted into the pipeline, it was for the option of looking at a 7 to 12 versus a 9 to 12. So now we're here, now 4 years later, or 3.5 years later, ready to make some decisions about that. And I think it's a great conversation for us to be having, for the school committee to have, for the public to have, which we will in the upcoming forums, is to really talk about what we want, and whether the 7 to 12 or 9 to 12 is what's in the best interest of this community. Next slide. All right, so we also decided in this last spring, so not too long ago, we had a series of meetings, not the best time because it was May and June at the end of the school year, but we had a lot of people come out. 200 members participated. I did meet with staff separately too, and we asked a series of questions about grade configuration, about secondary configuration, about how do we improve the overall student experience, and which model would be best for middle school grades and for high school grades. So these are the questions that we asked. We also asked questions about the K-8 model. We asked questions about having a pre-K center or an early childhood center. And so we had some really robust conversations in those meetings. And if you go to the next slide, it's interesting. We did hear a lot, again, about a number of participants preferred the idea of the pre-K K center and elementary schools, 1 to 6 or K to 6, and then a joint middle high school. Again, this wasn't everybody, but this is some of the themes we heard about why to consider the 7th to 12th grade model, making sure that everybody in the system has access to state-of-the-art facilities, not just 9 to 12, but 7 to 8. The opportunity to give middle schoolers a facility that offers more, again, newer spaces, different kinds of spaces like CTE programming for one, more art spaces and so forth. It would certainly allow for more continuity, although there was a lot of, not pushback, but concern or questions about keeping the two groups separate from one another. That was by, that was the most important thing we heard in terms of like why they might not be interested in doing. They were very worried about how to keep middle schoolers and high schoolers away from one another or some separation. Like those high schoolers are so scary. I don't know who's scarier, the middle schoolers or the high schoolers. But there were definitely, that was a big part of the conversation. The sports, band, CTE, a lot of people pointed out, which was actually, I just had my teacher advisory group meeting and they pointed the same thing out, that already there are a lot of middle schoolers who are taking advantage of high school activities. We have middle schoolers who are playing on the high school teams. We have the band program. We have a lot of middle schoolers participating as well. So that came up. CTE programs mentioned before. And then, the opportunity to open up space at Collins Middle School for other, could we move the schools that are in the mall out of the mall and into, a building that the city owns? That came up as well. And then, transportation and facility for parents, that they would only have one drop off, because any 7th to 12th grader in the city of Salem would be on this campus, and it would be easier for families in terms of getting kids to and from school. I probably talked too long. I'm off track. All right. But I'm going to give you back the mic. So that's the that gives you a little bit of the context here.
Thank you so much. That was really helpful. We will talk about this again tonight. Our student speaker, can you come forward? So we asked 3 storytellers, tell us about your most memorable experience. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. Hi, you can stand anywhere that makes you feel good, comfortable.
Okay. Hi, everyone. When I was asked the question, what was the most memorable moment here at Salem High, it was an immediate thought. I immediately thought back to 2 years ago. Our school play was 12th night, and we had a pretty big cast that year, and everybody was it was very colorful. It was very big and very colorful. I really enjoyed it. It was very nice. But I specifically thought of a moment. So that year, I had taken a 2-week vacation to the DR in the winter, which, as you know, is like smack in the middle of play season. I missed a lot of rehearsals. I missed a lot of run-throughs. So I was pretty left behind. But it was opening night, and I hadn't learned a choreography yet that I was supposed to be in. So that was really terrifying to just get out there and dance, not know what I'm doing. Yeah, I was behind the stage, getting ready to go on, and it was a full cast experience. It was the regular everybody is in kick line moment. And I didn't know where I was supposed to go because there were 2 lines. Behind was the ensemble, and in front were the main characters. So one of the main characters, or Anna Sokolow at that time, she grabbed my hand, pulls me on stage with all the main characters. I'm smack in the middle. Everybody can see me. I can see everybody from here. I can see all the lights coming down, and it's just everybody cheering loudly because we were doing the kick line. And I was just in the middle of all that, and it was honestly, it was the most beautiful moment here at Salem High. So yeah, that was the best moment ever.
So Thais prepared a little bit more than I did, but I would say that my most memorable experience was very recently. I don't know if any of you guys are veterans or know much about the Marine Corps, but I am in ROTC, or MCJ ROTC, and recently we had the Marine Corps birthday ball, and I just joined the program this year, so I am a very, very new cadet. My rank is fairly low. But recently we had the ball, so that's a really big deal in the JROTC and Marine Corps community. just like the Marine Corps birthday. So we had a big ball just in the auditorium. We were practicing for weeks before, and I was part of cake detail. So I I was in charge of commanding, telling everyone when to fall in step, when to go and like bring out the big cake and everything, because the cake is a big part of the Marine Corps birthday. It's a big deal. But I think practicing for that was really impactful for me, and then actually being able to be in my uniform all put together and everything, and my first time actually like presenting myself in that, I think that's really gonna stick with me. Even though it was really recently, I don't think I'll ever forget that. Yeah, so that was really important to me, just like being with that community, and yeah, so I think that's gonna stick with me for a while. My first ball in the JROTC program. Thank you.
So good. Thank you. Wow, they are great public speakers. I guess you're doing that here in Salem High School as well. So David's going to come forward. He's our educational planner from New Vista, and he's going to take you through some slides about future-ready teaching and learning. And pay attention, because we're going to have an exercise after this, and turn it over to David.
All right. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. So we're going to be asking you tonight sort of what your future vision and aspirations are regarding educational programming here. And we always have to think about what's happening now, what's your cutting edge now, and what do you project sort of 10 years into the future, 20 years into the future. These are 50 to 75-year buildings, and they're going to have to evolve a lot because we know how much things are evolving. So I'm just going to prime the pumps a little bit by going quickly through some of the themes that we think about when we think about 21st century teaching and learning. I know a lot of you in this room think about this stuff a lot in your various capacities and have had lots of conversations about this. One of the key themes is cultivating student agency and really empowering students to be lifelong learners, to be confident learners, and self-motivated learners. So, and that really connects to the idea of also applying the content that they're learning in real-world ways. And so one of the great things to do is to look at programs around the country and around the state that are doing innovative work and to learn from them. What are their lessons learned? So I know as part of your school building committee meeting, you had already started looking at a number of schools. One of them was Iowa Big. They do a lot of real world immersion in the context of CTE. One of the conversations that came up is you already do a lot of that here within your CTE programs, but how can you connect that to more of your academic programs and sort of get that real world connection happening there? The Purdue Polytechnic high schools do a lot of non-traditional scheduling and also partnering with the community. And again, real world immersion is a big part of the theme for them. Now, this is a school network that I'm very familiar with. I was one of the 3 people from Cambridge that started this network 24 years ago called the High Tech High Schools. They're in San Diego. We have 16 of them now, and they're now not just high schools. They go K-12. And what's distinctive there is that these are environments that really emphasize interdisciplinary learning, project-based learning, STEM and STEAM, and real-world connections. The idea here when we started these schools was vocademics. Let's take the best of academic, which is the content, and the best of vocational, which is the hands-on part of it, because we know that's what engages kids. And so we want to be in any kind of program and facility, we want to be thinking flexible, multifunctional. How do we connect students? How do we connect to the real world? Sustainability is a big part of this, as was mentioned. And how can the building itself be a teacher? How do we build resilience not only in the building but in our students? We want healthy environments and structures and help kids to really, again, gain that confidence. Now, integrating CTE is a real opportunity here as we think about the 7-12 conversation, and we'll be asking you about that as well in terms of what you see as the pros and cons, but certainly exposing kids earlier on to those CTE pathways, getting them to think about their passions, their interests, engaging them in exploration and exposure on the high school level, making sure that we're retaining those students and getting them feeling really connected to these different career pathways. And then there's the adult world piece as well, and how the school can service your adult population. Social emotional learning, another theme. Again, I'm just going through some of these quickly, these big picture themes. We think about social awareness, responsible decision making, developing self-awareness. These are all part of the kinds of programs that we can think about, things like advisories, or also in terms of the building, how do we build small school community? And how do we build whole school community? So we can think about that as well. When we think about 21st century skills, the 5 C's are also something that come up a lot. Those are sort of higher order thinking skills. The traditional 6 R's is every bit as important as it always has been, but the 5 C's are what really allow us to apply that in contexts that feel real, and they connect to that idea of becoming a lifelong and independent learner, because you're learning how to learn, and you're developing your confidence and your organizational skills. Diversity, equity, and inclusion in terms of the programs, how you differentiate within your general ed classrooms, what kind of sub-separate programming you have going on, programs for your newcomer and biliteracy program. We want to be thinking about all of that, and student voice and choice as connected to that. Now, student-centered learning comes up a lot, connected to lifelong learning. In my mind, it's all about giving students the confidence to be good communicators, as we just witnessed, right? And to develop their organizational skills, their problem-solving skills, and their higher order thinking skills. STEM and STEAM, you have Project Lead the Way, a great program here. STEM and STEAM is really a meta-discipline. It's how do we bring together all these disciplines in a real-world kind of way that's applied. It's a great way for teaching the design thinking engineering process, and art and humanities are a big part of it, and that's something that's important to understand, is that the humanities and the arts are the glue that hold a lot of that great content together. College and career planning in terms of helping kids envision their career pathways, having a plan moving forward, whether going into higher education or the work world as connected to career pathways. And extended learning opportunities are a great way to get kids immersed in the real world and the adult world of work and learning. It's a wonderful way to give kids exposure to fields that they might be interested in, doing service learning, opportunities for mentorship, getting involved in the community. And it's really about leveraging community resources in a way that you bring the adults into the school and you bring the students out into the community in safe ways. So the school becomes a permeable place, not the citadel on the hill. And I know that that's something that has been a major interest. And finally, technology. We can't ignore that we have all this new technology coming on board. We're just at the very tip of the iceberg of AI, and that is certainly going to hopefully create some wonderful tools that don't replace teachers, but that give us the opportunity for kids to work in more independent, self-paced ways, and that also allow things like augmented reality, virtual reality, and very interesting programming connected to STEM and STEAM. So that's just a little bit to get the pipes moving and get you all thinking about the things that are most important to you.
And what's so exciting is that we're starting now. I know you've done a lot of work before, but all of these tenants can be in your new building, and that's why we're here tonight, to get these conversations started. Where is our faculty storyteller? Ben? Ben, oh, Ben, of course. I think it's going to be about music. I don't know. What do you think, everyone? I mean, just saying. There you go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ben Chertok. If you don't know me, I'm the district's coordinator for music. I also teach here at the high school and at the middle school, which is a really unique situation because I get to see them when they're really little and then see them all the way through to high school graduation and, with any luck, beyond. And I think that for me, my most memorable experience working here at Salem High School doesn't come necessarily from the stuff or the events necessarily, but the in-between moments, right? Like as a band director, I'm here, I don't even know how many hours a day, here, there, everywhere, and on buses and in, wherever. And it's those in-between moments where you get to connect with your student on a whole different level. And I can think to a couple years ago when we were getting ready to go to Carnegie Hall, we had a really awesome opportunity to bring in a high school, I think it was from New York. They were touring Salem, and we got to do an exchange concert in the auditorium. And while it was great to hear their music program and for us to share our music program, it was the afterwards when the kids were intermingling with each other and sharing their interests with each other that was really like, I got to step back and just kind of watch it and experience that. And then again, recently as, I don't know, what's today, Thursday? Tuesday, I don't remember what day. I had an opportunity kind of last minute to take 7 students to a Future Music Educators Summit in Worcester. It kind of came together at the last minute, and a few of the kids that opted to go into it were kids that are in my class that I'm still getting to know, and I had no idea that they had an interest in music education. And between the 2-hour drive to and from, and spending time with them at lunch and interacting with them with their sessions that they got to go to, gave me this whole new perspective of the student that was in front of me. And I just think about all the opportunities that exist for the kids at Salem High School, whether it's music or anything else. And that sticks out as one of the reasons that I love working here.
That was great. And Ben talked about the spaces in between and the opportunities in between, and we'll be programming that in the project because we want to create opportunities for those impromptu moments that Ben was talking about. So, where's my clicker? Here it is. So David talked a little bit about the future and what it might be, and I've seen this 4 times, I'm still not bored of it, so I hope you'll find this interesting, and I think it will speak for itself.
Good evening, Salem. Great to be joining you virtually for your visioning session. I'm going to be sharing some ideas about trends in science and things that might change your thinking about how you might design spaces for students of the future so they may enter the workforce that'll be very different than it is today. I'm Jeff Zinda. I'm principal at Perkins & Will. I'm the regional science practice leader. And for the past 30 years, I've had really fantastic opportunities to work with amazing clients that are really visionaries. From Nobel laureates at Columbia University to some of the national labs, such as Fermilab and Brookhaven National Lab, to many branches of the U.S. military. I've worked on a whole host of science projects, and each of those has broadened my perspective. And I want to share a little bit of what I've learned over the years that might inform how you think about spaces for science and how you might educate your students differently for future science endeavors than you have in the past. The predominant trend that we've been encountering for quite some time now was really branded by a group of MIT scientists just about a decade ago. And this is termed convergence. And as you can see here by the definition on the screen, this is the merging of traditionally distinct disciplines to really create new lines of inquiry. I think this is the most fundamental thing that has really transformed science today and will continue to transform science in the future. So when many of us were educated, we were educated in single discipline science facilities, single discipline science classrooms, whether it was chemistry or physics or biology. I'm here to proclaim this evening that the era of single discipline science is really dead. It is no longer a way in which we think about solving the problems of tomorrow. It really needs to be brought together. And so this is a diagram that shows, the realm of interdisciplinarity is somewhere we've been exploring for the past 20 years or so, where this is the overlaps of traditional science spaces and traditional scientific disciplines. But really the idea of convergence is blending those all together and creating 2 completely new lines of inquiry, really converging those areas into new areas of science. So when we think about this from a building perspective, we look at the hard science spaces, whether it's a data lab or environmental science or chemistry. But as we start to think about spaces for the future, it's also about the spaces where those ideas are explored further It's about shared space. It's about informal and formal collaboration. It's about the introduction of green space, and even the idea of bringing art, kind of taking the step from STEM to STEAM and making that translation. These are all critically important to look at, and I know you will through your visioning process, in a holistic sense. So looking at the hard science spaces along with the more soft spaces. At the same time that we're looking at changes in science, we're also looking at the changes in the way science is instructed, the way that science educational spaces are forming. So many of us learned in the kind of instructor-centered sage on the stage model. This has been over the years looking at flipped classrooms and concepts like MOOCs, looking at learner-centered types of spaces. And where we're starting to transition into now is self-determined learning, self-determined pathways to education. So as we move from passive to active learning, it's really about that pathway of the educational experience, moving beyond lecture into different ways of interactive classrooms, starting to test different things hands-on. As we start to move down this pyramid from passive to active learning, it's about getting involved and getting students involved, and really critically doing the real thing, getting them hands-on in the different multidisciplinary science spaces. And this will be important to explore as part of a vision for future science education. So when a lot of people think about laboratories, especially here in the Boston area, they think about a space like this, endless rows of wet bench laboratories. And that's very true in many cases. But I'd also say this is equally a laboratory. This is a data science laboratory that happens to be at Microsoft. And so I encourage you all to think about kind of unencumbering yourselves from the traditional sense of what a laboratory is, the traditional sense of what a science classroom is, and think about what they could be in the future. So when we look at trends, the education in 2030 and beyond, I had a little bit of fun with this here, kind of separated into 3 chapters. The first is downfall of the humans, the second is the rise of the robots, and then the introduction of not big data science, but huge data science. And over the next few minutes, I will unpack this as to what some ideas you might think about from a vision perspective. So the downfall of the humans, this is really about advanced automation in research in various forms. And so when we look at laboratories, both in a commercial and an academic sense, they're full of spaces for people. This is a space over at Ginkgo Bioworks in the Seaport in Boston, in which you can see a number of different analytic platforms in which there's a significant amount of space for people to interact with that equipment and actually perform a lot of the analytic processes. And this is a very labor-intensive process. Traditionally, things like this, pipetting is what is being shown on the screen here, was done manually. But today, we're increasingly seeing robots take over those tasks and really automate those tasks so that they can be much more efficient and they can also be error-free. So when we look at this particular company at Ginkgo Bioworks, this is their automated foundry. This is something that exists today. You can see a series of different maglev platforms that move samples around. You can see these green multi-articulated, multi-axis arms by FANUC automation actually grabbing samples and bringing them into analysis platforms. This is what's happening today. We're already getting people out of the laboratories. So when we think about science, what are we training future students for? Well, we think we're training students to work in platforms to obtain information through analysis in very different manners. They may not be doing that analysis themselves. They will be ordering them. This is an on-demand research work cell that's completely remote from where the science groups are. This is a facility in North Carolina called Grail, in which researchers from around the world can actually dial up experiments, can actually order research to be done, and they could be located somewhere else in the world. Very different mindset about how one engages in research. Something to think about on an educational platform basis. Second chapter here was then Rise of the Robots, and many of you may recognize this Atlas robot here from Boston Dynamics. It either excites you quite a bit or really, really creeps you out. I'll leave that up to all of you to decide. But the future of automation is really advanced today. When you start to think about some of the spaces such as a maker lab, maker space, many people think of a platform like this. This is an academic institution here in the Boston area in which there are multiple devices for fabrication, 3D printing, small-scale fabrication. But when we think about the robotic automation, the introduction of advanced robotic technologies, this is also a maker lab. This happens to be at Wichita State in their experimental engineering building, where they're prototyping large-scale elements for the aerospace industry to test new ways of building engines, of building wings, et cetera. So that melding of automation and automated technology is already happening. This also happens at a very big scale. This happens to be part of the School of Architecture, part of the School of Engineering at the ETH in Zurich, where they have many large fabrication arms bringing full-scale building elements together in a very unique fashion. This is one of very few facilities in the world in which you can design a building, you can design a canopy, such as in here, or design some sort of enclosure, and it can be rapidly fabricated by multi-axis arms, building that assembly, hands-on learning in a very different way via automation. So the last chapter here is beyond big data, huge data, and the biggest influence we probably have in the world today is the introduction of artificial intelligence and quantum computing. In today's environment, there are already rooms and technologies like this. This is called a CAVE, or a computer-assisted virtual environment, at Louisiana State University, where you can have full-scale digital mock-ups made of different assemblies. And this is where hands-on learning will continue to influence students in new and unique ways. Through VR and augmented reality, engineering classrooms can already model components and parts to see how they interact and see how the systems come together, bringing convergent learning in different ways to the educational realm. This happens to be the most powerful supercomputer, I believe, in the world at this point. This is at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. It's a platform called Cori. And if you speak computing, it does about 200 petaflops, or just shy of 19 qubits of computing power, I believe, on a per hour basis. This is SQMS, or the Quantum Development Laboratory at Fermilab. Their goal is to attain 100,000 qubits this year in terms of computing power. Let that sink in for a minute. Right now, the most powerful supercomputer does about 19 qubits. This year, they look to attain 100,000 qubits of computing power. This will change analytics. This will change education. This will change everything that we do. So this is happening now. This isn't even in the future. We're going to look at this across a broad spectrum of different platforms. This happens to be an analytic platform called Betty in New Zealand. A problem that they have, there's a dearth of veterinarians. They use AI enhancement of camera technology in order to look at facial recognition in animals. And this can be done in research as well. There was a publication in Nature about the emotions of animals and facial recognition, and you can detect things such as neurodegenerative disease, cancers, all sorts of ailments just from facial expressions using AI technology. The students of tomorrow, the careers of tomorrow, are going to be utilizing these incredibly powerful platforms in order to perform this type of research, and it will lead to whole new lines of career paths out there. So as you're going through the visioning process here and over the upcoming weeks and months, think about the potentials of beyond interdisciplinary research and interdisciplinary education, and think towards the potentials of convergent research. Think about how one might teach in multi-dimensions, bringing teams and concepts together in different ways, and what that might mean for your school of the future.
How many people learned something on that? Was that pretty amazing, right, Patrick? I know. I've watched this 4 times, and it's amazing to have the opportunity and access to someone like Jeff, who can show us where these students are going, and it's not that far away. So it's pretty amazing. So you have, we're going to hand out the papers, and you're going to work in a team. So you're not going to do this together at your table. And you're going to discuss or write down on these pages, the first 2 pages that are going to your table, what are your educational priorities and aspirations. We know you're not going to get all that equipment, but we really thought it was important for you to see where the world is and where it's headed. So this you can do in a group, you can make pictures, you can write it down, and we'll get a couple of groups to share. 1 per table, you're going to work in a group. So you're going to work together at your table, and you're going to answer those questions in a group. There's educational priorities and facility priorities. So you have 2 of the same? Okay. So you'll see the educational priorities, and you'll work together to come up with some ideas here. They're just 2 sheets. Gives you extra paper? Yes. Not yet on the facility. Do you have facility yet? They weren't supposed to give that to you. We don't. So, okay. Everybody did their job. AJ? So work together. Anybody need me to bring you a cookie? Let's give everyone some cookies. Let's put some cookies on the tables. You want to carry cookies? I'll take that. I'm full service here.
Thank you very much.
Please. That's pretty good, considering. Good idea. What about, your kids aren't there. Paul needs a cookie. So write your ideas down, thank you. Are you done? I got it. I'm full service here. How's,
Hi.
how are
My
you?
name's Veronica. I'm not sure where I'm supposed to be.
Right there. You're good. A few times. How's everyone doing? We'll give you about 3 more minutes. About 3 more minutes. Remember, this is education, not facilities. We'll get to facilities next. Skip over the break. Couple more minutes, and then we'll hear back from you. All right, wrap up your last thoughts. We could do this for an hour, but all right, why don't we have table 3 share, and what we're going to do is pick some people to share their educational, and then the next group is going to share the facility exercise. So I'm going to turn it over to Anthony.
So the priorities we identified were meeting students at all different levels where they are, CTE on display, meaning CTE that isn't squirreled away in corners of the building but is highly visible throughout the building, preparing students for an uncertain tomorrow, meaning less focus on specific vocations and more on general skill sets and problem-solving skills. Providing services to the community, having a facility that's adaptable and flexible to different programs so that we're never in a spot where we have a teacher that needs to move to a different classroom and say, oh, we don't have that, we don't have the ability to hold that program or have that equipment in that space. And project-based learning that is student self-guided.
All of that is music to the design team's ears. We love that. That's why we're very excited to work here, because you are a very aspirational community. Who's going to speak at this table? Paul.
These are the bullet points that I summarized what our table was thinking. Creating with technologies, this idea of modeling projects and challenges, bringing outside experiences, jobs, careers to educate parents and students into the school, which I think was also discussed earlier. Engage students' families into their education experiences to understand what they've been doing and their priorities. Better engaged parents result in better engagement of their children. Moving past traditional industrial, in quotations, model, because I'd never heard industrial as a descriptive before, of teaching and learning and skill building. Increase faculty collaboration and communication, goes past this idea of interdisciplinary into convergence. Look forward to the time when CTE is no longer described as a separate part of learning, but is actually just learning, and like core academics are. And then helping the social and emotional support and encouragement of students connected, empowered, orient around challenges.
Wow. You must be an architect. Okay. Who wants to go next? Who wants to go next? I'll let you. Was that a wave? Oh. Okay, don't be shy. I have to stand up here, so do you want to go next, Karen?
Okay, sure.
Okay, thank you.
So our group, I mainly took notes while these ladies had a lot of great thinking. But one of the things that we connected with was that vocademic idea, and moving students from exploring, and also from the video, moving students from exploring current ways of being adults, with nothing wrong with that, but to preparing for a constantly evolving future careers. So, and we like the idea of moving beyond interdisciplinary, which this table also talked about, and especially bringing CTE to academics and academics to CTE. Like even at vocation, at like tech schools, they have like a separate week for, it's like academics and then their vocation and then academics. And the idea of bringing those things together like they are in the real world. Project-based learning in an environment that's flexible for that. And giving students the opportunities to do new research that interests them, maybe creating inventions, starting businesses, pioneering new things like they do in college, connecting with the community, looking at, talking to people in the community, what are the real world problems that need solving, and giving them an opportunity to do that. And also having it be student driven, allowing them to explore passions that might go beyond traditional boundaries of the subject area they're currently in.
Wow, you all are amazing. This is fantastic. One more? Does one more group want to present anything new? Or do you want to take your 5-minute break? What'd you say? Nobody? No break? He said no break. Erica, our public health expert is saying you need a break. She's going to make you stand up and do exercises. All right, nobody else? We're going to collect all these and document them, so pass them forward and take a 5-minute break. And I really appreciate people who have been very focused. That was awesome. Good job. get some snacks, coffee? Nothing, Rick? Little water? Okay, that works. Everybody want to get back to their table because we have a special parent speaker. We have a special parent speaker. Oh, you're, well, you know.
Putting a lot of pressure on me, Brooke. So, Brooke said I have about 30 to 40 minutes to talk about my stories, right? No. So I'll be quick. I have 2 stories. Now, let me just preface by saying I have 2 daughters. The oldest graduated in 2011, and the youngest graduated in 2014. So they've been out for a while. But there are 2 stories that come immediately to mind. The first was when they were 8th grade, embarking on coming to 9th grade, there was an orientation. And it's not a novel concept, but most schools do it. But the great thing about the orientation was there are high school students who met with the 8th graders to give them the real deal on what to expect when they come to the high school. And so for those of you who know my daughters, they're very confident, so I wasn't really worried about them. They were going to be fine. But as parents, we were worried. And I will tell you, after speaking with the students and staff, and then the students being willing to engage with our daughters once they come to the high school was really kind of satisfying for the parents. And so I don't know if you still do that. If you do, it's a wonderful program. It really goes a long way for the parents. I can speak for the parents. So thanks for, that's the first story. The second one is actually now. So when I'm out and about, or my wife and I are out and about at, walking around Salem or restaurants and things like this, invariably, we will see a staff member who will say, "Is your daughter Jasmine, or is your daughter Alex?" And I'll say, yeah. "Well, you don't know me, but I worked at Salem High School when your daughters were there." And I say, "Well, that's pretty cool." And so what we do is we take a selfie, and then I send it to my daughters and say, "Do you know," because I'm terrible with names. Like, "Do you know this person?" "Oh, yeah, that's Mr. So-and-so, or Mr. So-and-so. They were wonderful." And the great thing about that is I'll say, "Well, what class did you have them in?" And they'll say, I didn't have them for a teacher." And I think that says a lot, because most people remember faculty who they had as a teacher. Very rarely do you remember someone outside of the classroom, but it seems like most, although they certainly do have a lot to say, love for and respect for the teachers that they had, but just as much love and respect for those faculty and staff who they didn't have in the classroom. So that says a lot about the faculty and staff here. And this building is going to have all the bells and whistles. It's going to be a fabulous building. We know that. We got a great team. But the building is only as good as the human beings who occupy it. And so that's the best thing about the Salem public school system. It's about the people in the building who are doing the work to help our students. So that's my story. Last thing I'll say is, when I see these faculty and staff, it seems that oftentimes I see them in a bar. I'm trying to figure out what that means. No, I'm kidding.
So I want to welcome Dr. Etlin for a TED Talk. She is a distinguished speaker around, actually I could say around the world. Has too many credentials to say tonight, but she will inspire you and talk about health and wellness, which we know is a very important topic for Salem, and I'm going to turn it over to Erica.
All right, I have been challenged this evening that I talk too long often. I miss my time. And so I have asked Laura in the back to let me know. She's going to time me. I have 6 minutes, and she has a card she's going to hold up and wave when I have a minute left. Thank you. Yeah. So basically what I want to talk about tonight is, as a public health scientist, it is really what Nate is talking about. It is about putting people at the center of this process. And so when I talk about this, if we're going to have a healthy school building, it has to be healthy at the start. That is exactly where we are. And it has to be healthy at the heart. And that means we have to be thinking about different users within this space. What does that look like? And so with that, One thing that I think is really important is that when we say health, health means a lot of things to people. It means tasty lunch, it means nurses' visits, and yet what I want us to think about is the fact that this is not just absence of disease. It's, oh, a kid didn't have asthma, oh, they didn't, catch a flu. It is actually about sort of a more holistic approach. It is about the physical, the mental, the social well-being that we are trying to achieve. And why is this so important is because outside of their homes, this is the second most important indoor environment they will spend in their life. And so we have 15,000 hours in K-12 schools here in Salem. If we think about this as even sort of this 8 to 12 model, that's going to be about 7,000 hours. So this building does matter. So with that in mind, for the last decade of my career, I've been thinking about what is the research that tells us that school buildings impact health, thinking, and performance. And what we have been able to find is going back 30 years, there is a lot there. We can talk about acoustics, we can talk about air quality, daylight, and so if you're nerdy like I am, go check it out. I only have 6 minutes. So the other important, that's what they always say, and I never get another date. So with that in mind, though, is while I have been at Perkins & Will, one thing that's really important is it's nice to be bougie and at Harvard, but what's really important is thinking about it holistically. And what I have found is that it is not enough to just think about the environmental quality if we are not thinking about how this building is also health promoting our students. Kids are coming in with maybe housing instability, maybe coming in with sort of mental health challenges, thinking about anxiety, depression, what is their day filled with? And so we have to show up for them much more than making sure we have good HVAC, although I do love HVAC. The next piece is also then thinking about educational adaptation. If we are having a building, it needs to last for 50 to 60 years. Are we creating a space that is showing up for our teachers and making it flexible? Laura, what am I at? I love this. All right, so with that in mind is also thinking about as we are going into these spaces, every single feature can be a health decision. We can be able to say, how easy is it to clean? Because we know that our facility managers in our buildings do more for our children's health in a given day than their primary care provider. So therefore, it is important for us to be thinking about what are the chemicals, what is the surfaces, how are we going to make this a durable, lasting building? And that is actually a health question. So yes, in the course of this process, as we kick off visioning and we go through design, we will be making design decisions. But I would like us to think about this as thinking about these as health decisions. Because on this slide, every single different key term here is actually linked to a peer-reviewed paper that we can talk about how those impacts are associated with child and teacher health. So when I say healthy from the start, what's really exciting is that this is our moment. This is actually when we have the most health tools available to us. We want to talk about surveys. Thais, I want to talk to you how are we going to reach other students? What is important for them to tell us that we are not going to talk about as a whole bunch of, millennials, I guess. I don't know where y'all are at. But, with that in mind is that how do we tap into the literature? How do we tap into the research and the data that's available? And that, to me, is that healthy from the start. So this is our moment right now. And as I was kind of thinking about what makes Salem really special is that there's actually 3 unique populations that I want to talk about. The first is the broader community. And so as, we were thinking about this, I think it was you, Catherine, who kind of made this point of in your press release, it's about sort of this long-term vision that after the school closes for our kids, it shows up for our community. And that became really clear in the data. So I have a big nerdy team. We developed a tool called Proceed, which is the public repository to engage communities in enhanced design equity, and it is pulling data from EPA, CDC, census, everything. We have about 60 different metrics in here. And when I look at it and I compare Salem to the rest of the state, one thing that became really clear is that this building also has to be a place of stability and opportunity. We're seeing folks coming in with a lot of social vulnerability, rent burden, even just owning a computer. These are things that we need to be able to sort of provide for our citizens. It also comes to when we think about these environmental exposures, this is a building that can buffer. It can be a safe space, it can be a cooling center, because we know, oh, this is a good, thank you. I failed this. I failed. I knew, shit. Anyway, with that in mind, being able to think about where does air pollution fit in, looking at extreme heat and flooding, these are really important concerns. And then the next piece being able to say, when we look at health outcomes, everything from physical inactivity to high blood pressure, mental distress, asthma is one of the biggest issues here. And so that's something, when we know it's the #1 contributor to chronic absenteeism, this is a point of we need to focus on this within this building, because there's lots of ways that we can make sure that we are reducing that risk. The next piece is students. And so when I think about students, one thing from an acoustics perspective is the fact that 60% of classroom activities is related to verbal communication. And yet when we have these huge surveys go out, 30% of the students say, I can't hear what the teacher's saying. So when we look and see that 1 in 5 Salem students are English language learners, acoustics isn't just like a like to have, it's a must have. And when I think about, the fact that 77% of our teachers are female, our vocal cords, vibrate more quickly. We are more prone to vocal strain. So it isn't just showing up for those kids, it's also showing up for the teachers. The next piece is that if we think about middle school age kids, we know that they have challenges with sleep. And so when we are thinking about, how are we going to support our high needs students, this is something where, are we providing adequate light? Is it something that's going to help them stay alert and able within that building? That's something that our building can start to consider and do. The last piece is also just thinking about when we are thinking about emerging diagnoses and students coming in with ADHD and autism and other disabilities, this is something where we have to be thinking about inclusion in many different ways. This is not something where we can just say, we did it. It has to be with the help of our students, with our educators, to get this right. And to me, one thing that I think is really important is that growing up, the safest space for me as a child was my school. And so when I see this statistic, that's a very real number for me. And so when I get to be at a firm where we're thinking about, okay, yes, we need to have sight lines so teachers can monitor. I understand that nobody likes a nook. But how do we also make sure that there's spaces for belonging, safety within that? That is really critical. And so we have examples that we can kind of look through. What do you like? What do you not like? And lastly, just educators. To me, these are workplaces. It's not just a classroom. And so therefore, it is on us and to work with all of you educators in the room to be able to have these conversations around your unique physiology, because we have teachers at every part of their life course in this space. We talk about teacher retention, and this is not a juicy topic for y'all, but menopause is real. I heard it's coming, and it's one of these things where we see an incredible number of women leaving workplaces because of stuff like that. So we need to start considering how we're showing up for everyone, especially because 15,000 hours is how long our kids are in these buildings. Our teachers are in it for even longer. And that is something that, even if I think about the cushion and that what are the chemicals in here, those chemicals can migrate out. And do we want them to be carcinogenic? No, hell no. So this is our moment to also get that right. And lastly, just as we think about it, how is your day-to-day changing? How can we make sure that the rest of the building is supporting you? That is my priority. I blew my time. Thank you for listening.
So thank you. That was amazing, and I'm so blessed to be able to work with these amazing thought leaders and the industry. And all these people are in the Boston studio, so they help inform our K-12 projects. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to David to talk about future-ready facility themes, and that's going to be your next 2 pieces of paper.
Okay, Erica, I'm going to give you a minute of my time, okay? So you've got that. So you're good. Can you, do we have that? Yeah, I just have 4 slides so you can click. So we asked you about your educational priorities, and a lot of those conversations tend to veer into things about the facility too, because there are things that we can't really do very well educationally because of the limitations of our facility. So we're going to ask you now about your facility priorities, and I'm going to just go through some of the big picture themes that come up, again, just to spark some ideas that you're probably already thinking about. So certainly healthy building, as Erica was talking about, is one of those overarching themes that we think about. And also, we're thinking about the building now being fully wired, robust technology infrastructure, because we have to handle all the new technology as well that's going to be coming down the pike. And if the building is fully wired, then why can't we use every square inch of the building? Think about hallways as taking up 30%, and your hallways take up more than 30% of your building. Your hallways are ginormous, and they're not very useful. I mean, they're useful to have wide hallways so you don't get huge traffic jams, but what about extending learning beyond the classroom walls? So if we're thinking about the classroom is still the basic building block, that's where a lot of things are happening, but we're also trying to give kids opportunity to do applied learning, to do project work, to collaborate, and to develop agency. So in order to do that, can we extend learning beyond the classroom, use all of those in-between spaces, create varied spaces for more active collaborative learning, as well as synergy and connectivity. Another big thing that we think about a lot is how do we build community? Small school community and large school community. And this building, again, is very much, the spaces may be great, but in between, you don't know where you are or how it's all connected. And so it can be very isolating. So how do we create a sense of small school connectivity? And that has a lot to do with inclusion and a sense of belonging and ownership. And if you want to fully engage kids and get them really known by a number of adults, we can think about how physically to create these smaller learning communities and also to build whole school connection. Lastly, I'll just say the departmental versus interdepartmental organization of a school. We have always designed schools departmentally. Science is over there on the third floor on the, in that wing. What's difficult about that is if you want to do STEM or STEAM, then those spaces are really isolated. How do we think about the possibility of integrating everything other than a science classroom is a general ed classroom that could be interchangeable? So how can we give you the opportunity to organize both departmentally but also interdepartmentally so that you can have some of that great synergy that goes on?
What's the word we learned today?
Convergence, right. One more? Okay, so part of that, when we think about that integration, we also want to be thinking about CT, and we were talking about that over at our table there, that what about integrating CTE classrooms with the academic classrooms so you don't have this like totally separate world, because there's a lot of ways that chemistry might connect to culinary, right? And having that adjacency when noise permits, or if you don't need a double height space for a particular shop area. So we really think about how do we integrate the vocational and academic spaces, create real world and simulated environments that really feel like the real world. A lot of times when people go into those high-tech high schools that we talked about before, they say, this doesn't feel like a school, this feels like Google. It feels like an office, and the kids feel it too. They rise to the occasion. They are behaving more like adults in the school place because they have an environment that really asks that of them. And then all the technology around 3D modeling, maker spaces. Next. And so when we ask you to think about what your aspirations are, I really want people to sort of get out of the weeds of thinking, oh, I want heat that works. I want air conditioning. I want bathrooms. I want enough bathrooms. I want even water fountains. Those are good. Water filling stations. Not to say that you can't be staying there and thinking about all that stuff, but I just want to assure you that any school that is a renovated or new or renovation addition through the MSBA process is going to have all of that stuff. It's going to be fully ADA compliant. We're going to be thinking about safety and security, but also how to make the building feel welcoming. It will have modern technology and furniture. Classrooms will be well-sized because we know that they're station-based and it's not always just traditional stand up and deliver. Next slide. And other things that they will also have are, we really think about push-in special education. There may be sub-separate special education areas within the building, but otherwise everything has to be integrated next to general ed classrooms. So that means small group rooms, and we'll also be thinking about OT, PT, speech, safe drop-off and pickup, really thinking about parking and how we separate bus and pedestrian and car access. Sustainability will be a pretty high bar that we're going to have to reach. Distributed and gender-neutral bathrooms, and well-sized big-ticket items like your cafeteria, media center, athletic facilities, music, fine arts, and performing arts. Those are all there, but we want to hear about it in terms of what's in your mind's eye about what's getting you most excited.
Thank you. You yielded a minute. So the first we're going to talk about some aspirational teaching and learning spaces. I'm going to go real fast because we've actually printed these for you, the deck on the table. So when you do your exercise, you'll be able to reference those cards. The first 4 slides are from the building committee, right? And if we had more time in the world, I'd let you come up and talk about these projects. This is Crosstown High School. This is an adaptive reuse project. This is the same project, Learning Everywhere. Remember we talked about the corridors? Look what can happen in the corridor. It's a tiny little space for teaching. How exciting. And then we talked about High Tech High. This is an exploratory space. This will be, let's remember this moment, because in how many years, Margaret, will this be this committee? Hopefully 4 years you will be walking into spaces like this. Another High Tech High. This is a entry space, but it's used for collaboration. It could be used for robotics, a lot of activities. So these spaces are very flexible. Here is Classroom as Studio. What if we called it not a classroom, but a studio? Very flexible, light-filled. Here's another example. There are 2 classrooms that are together here. Furniture that I think might make Erica happy. I'm not sure. Does that furniture make you happy? Smaller learning communities. What if there's an area for people to collaborate in the middle of classrooms? That's very visible to the instructors, and I know that's important. Collaborating Everywhere, another example of that. These are not really expensive things to put whiteboard on the walls, soft seating, flexible science, we'll talk about that, so nothing is fixed to the floor. Light, power, acoustics. Here's another one, interdisciplinary connectivity, so these classes are together. How wonderful is that? Talk about, what's the word? Convergence, yes, that can happen right there. Integrating the arts, this makes a few people happy in the room, hopefully everyone, and creating these great flexible art spaces. Look at this. This is a community space that feels really nice. Furnitures can be moved around. There's a lot of opportunities for different kinds of people who want to be in spaces that are by themselves or in a group, and we try to think about that. Cafeteria is not always the friendliest space for students. Teacher collaboration and respite. What about a space like that for the teachers? They can go, collaborate, take a break, have lunch. Here's another example of a teacher interdisciplinary space where teachers can gather together and work together or independently. This is that idea of sort of impromptu collaboration, which has been talked about a lot tonight. Just a little nook with some soft seating. How amazing. Here is an example of presentation and performance. These spaces are very flexible and can be used for a whole host of things. Outdoor learning and gathering, bless you. That's really important, and that will be very essential in this project. We will look to that. Tiny little room for mixed media. This was actually not a staged picture. These students were doing this performance, and we happened to capture that picture, which is great. How about an immersive studio? We talked about something like this at the high school, but what if we could bring the elementary school students here and they could participate in this wonderful experience? Here's another one. It's a very flexible room, but really interesting. Here's another interactive lab with projection. Here's STEAM, an art classroom, but again, integrated into the overall community. Here's a flexible creation space. This is just a really simple space that can be used for so many things. That furniture is totally flexible. And there's actually little huddle rooms, little gathering rooms in the back. This is a tiny little maker space. Imagine some of these in your small learning communities that can promote project-based learning. Here's another one where this is an extended learning environment. Everybody loves this. I had an architect reach out and say, can I have that detail of that movable walls? What did you think I do? You think I gave it to them? Rick? Paul? I did. We did. We're nice. Anyway, here's some CTE spaces, automotive. There's a lot of discussion about where the classroom will be within CTE. Is it in the room? Is it a separate classroom? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about more flexible studio ideas. Really simple. Look at the exposed. The structure And all of the equipment, HVAC, electrical, can all be a learning opportunity for the students in this building. Culinary, medical assisting, learning on display, we talked a lot about that. That's really important. Who said don't put CTE in the back of the place? Well, we totally agree with you. Make it visible to the community, to the students, to the parents, and get them excited about those opportunities. Again, more learning on display, and wraparound services. Erica talked a lot about this, making sure that students have opportunities for health care, food, maybe showers, things that they might need within their school. And again, creating a sense of belonging and community, hearing stories, your stories, the student stories, and representing those in the building. And that's something really fun we'll do as we get into the next phase of design. So that was a dash, because we want to hear from you, and you have some cards on the table. So unwrap your cards. Some people were unwrapping them a little early, but that's okay. John, I saw you. So unwrap your cards, and you can put a sticker on it, a smiley face, a sad face. We'll collect the cards. You can write, again, similar exercise. This will be done in a group. You don't have to use the cards. They're just there for fun, to prompt you. If you like something and want to show us, go ahead. We'd love to see it. There are all these images that we had here. So if you want to put stickers on, you could just use the cards, you can write. back, you reported back. Did you report back last time? Do you want to report back? Kristen, do you want to report back? If you don't want to, you don't have to. Do you want to or not? Yeah, you don't have to. Lori? Okay, we're gonna, yes. Oh, please, and I'm sorry, Lori, I'm gonna let a student and then I'll come back to you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I'm gonna turn it over to you. Stand up and tell us hold the cards up and tell us what you like. Real loud. All right, look at them.
I really like this one because it would help students that are going through a lot and just need like a break. Oh, wraparound service. And it will help students that are stressed and just need a break and like get away from school for a little bit.
No? Okay, you like that space too. Okay, anything? You want to pick one? Do you want to pick one you like?
That I like?
She used more red faces than anyone I.
Yeah. I had a lot.
You can pick something you don't like.
Okay, so I had a lot of. I guess I should say that. So I had a lot of opinions about these because even if I am a senior and I'm gonna graduate and this won't be my school and I won't use it, I still think that as a student, we should, I get to see the way other students interact with the building. And I just don't think a lot of these spaces would be helpful or useful to the cause. I see a lot of these rec rooms and just open spaces for kids to go to. But especially thinking about the school, all I can think about is the amount of students that are just gonna go there to skip class. Let's be realistic here. I don't want the school to waste their money. In 10 years, I want to come back and see a brand new school that's gorgeous, okay? That's a goal for me. And I don't believe that students should be allowed facilities to calm down or relax when in the past we've seen them use and abuse them. This is a privilege they should have to earn in the first place. And there's just a lot of these rooms just don't speak to me that students would be able to learn in them, aside from just sit there and do nothing. So that's my honest opinion. One of them that did speak to me, well, it was just this classroom. It was the classroom that has a wall of a window wall like that just shows the outside. It was just really gorgeous, and it's honestly I would like to learn in a classroom that's so surrounded by nature, you know? That's just me. Yes, Mr. C? Can I give him the mic?
I know, but so Thais, one of the things that I sort of interpreted the yellow sticker as the I'm not sure, I have questions sticker, right? And on some of those shared public spaces or flexible spaces, one of the things that I was thinking about is how we build that capacity for the students to engage in this space, but then also how we define as a community when multiple people want to use the space at multiple times and all that stuff, how that becomes a priority and how you determine this group, then this group, then this group. Because I hear what you're saying, and based on experiences, I definitely, I know what you're talking about, but I also think that with, I hate to say it, with shiny new things comes a level of pride, and if you build the capacity, it can be done, but I think we have to have a really clear understanding as adults first of this is the purpose of the space, this is how and when it's going to be used by different groups, and then we got to have that before we build it, because otherwise you're right, it does become, you were talking about a space that you were aware of that was built with that intent, but then it wasn't defined and got shut down. And I agree, who wants to waste money to build this gorgeous space that then doesn't get utilized the way that it wants to be?
And, you know, I would say that one thing that's really important with those spaces is to make sure there are sight lines, adults that can see the spaces. So tucking them away. Mary, you want to say something?
I just really agree with the one that showed the tables and chairs that were flexible and could be moved around, particularly in the cafeteria. I think that students do rise to the expectations that you set. And when you set tables with little stools for 14-year-olds and 13-year-olds to be sitting on, it is a very different expectation than tables and chairs. And I was thrilled to see it in here as an example. And I put about 6 little smiley faces next to it. So,
and that is a topic of conversation, what happens in the cafeteria. So thank you for saying that.
The cafeteria stays in the cafeteria.
Yes, Mary. We're not going to tell anybody. Anybody, raise your hand if you want to bring up another card. Oh, I like it. Okay, here.
I really liked this impromptu collaboration space here with the grown-ups because we have a habit, my team will sit on the floor in the hallway collaborating when the students go to pathway specialist or if they're gone for the day. We literally sit on the floor talking about the next day and the plan for next day because we really don't have a space to do that. So I really liked this. So
awesome. And that doesn't take up a lot of space, does it? Give you some comfy furniture. Who?
Yes. So a couple of us liked the classroom as studios, and not necessarily the classroom, but the wall of windows with nature on the other side. Several of the walls of windows in other examples had direct sunlight, and I thought that was a little too glaring, so I'd love to see it interrupted with trees.
We agree with you. This is a beautiful site, and there's lots of opportunities. We will do glare analysis. We'll do all those analyses to ensure that your rooms are not too sunny for everyone. But you have a lot of, I like all those smiley faces here, Rick. Come on, give us a smiley face.
Let's see. Somebody else from the team want to give a smiley face? Well, I was going to echo, I guess, what Ben was saying about if we give the people great spaces. Well, we had made some notes about that. If we give students great spaces, the hope is that they will rise to the challenge and respect those spaces that they're being given. I think, and the other one I liked a lot was the couple examples of the faculty spaces, because I think, like who was saying they were sitting on the floor. So you were just saying you were sitting on the floor for your kind of collaboration meetings, and I think that kind of professional development space often gets just put in a classroom or in a when the kids aren't there, and if you have a space that's dedicated to that kind of training, I think that's good. One thing that's not here that John was talking about with helping students who have special needs, and they may still be in high school all the way to like 18, 20, beyond 18 to 22 and things like that, is could you create some simulation environments like an apartment or a workplace or something where they can learn some lifelong skills in situ in the high school. So those are just some thoughts.
That's a very common thing that we do. Where's the special ed? Oh, there you are. We talked earlier, we said what an important meeting we need to have because this isn't a program that translates to every project. Every district is different. So we look forward to making the apartment with you in those kinds of spaces. They're in all of our high schools. One more? Anybody have? Okay. Patty.
So the two that stuck out to me are the really great presentation and performance space, because that's not been touched in a long time, and you're welcome, and appropriately designed music spaces. I was paid for that.
So we're going to collect all of these. Oh, we could go on all night. Anybody want to stay till midnight with us?
Just thinking about earlier, there was talk about the pre-K and K center, and I'm just thinking about like co-locating that at the high school, because it opens up an opportunity for real, you know, authentic internships for our high school students, and if it is a 7-12, even before that, and creates, you know, could create a pipeline of future educators for us. If they're, you know, if that center is located somewhere else, we have to transport kids, and we're always bumping up against that being a major issue.
Thank you for that. And Mary asked about sizes of spaces and the size of the auditorium, and we're not there yet, but there are some standards that MSBA has. You are allowed to exceed some of the standards. There may not be reimbursement for those, so typically an auditorium of a school this size seats about 680 or 90 students. If you want it bigger, there's things we can talk about with that. So we haven't gotten to that phase of programming, but we're getting there, and all of this feedback is going to help us really develop the program. Okay, did I say it wrong?
No, but what my real question was, there were several examples of well-sized this, well-sized that, well-sized auditorium, gym, whatever. And my question was, what is well-sized in MSBA speak for the reality of what well-sized is? You know, what do you mean by well-sized versus what are you really saying? You know, in full disclosure, you know, that was my sort of sinister question.
Well, I think it's a great question, Mary, and
Because I've been sort of through some of this, and it's
right.
I know there's more than well-sized behind that term.
Right, and we'll look to you for feedback. When we well, what we'll do is we'll develop a program, and Salem will have very specific requirements, and you can exceed the MSBA, and we'll work with our OPM on how to accomplish that. So we're going to talk about grade configurations, and we're going to talk about 7 through 12 and 9 through 12. We know that there's quantitative, educational, economic, and facility impact. We come in neutral. We don't have an opinion about this. We let the information speak for itself. So again, I have another amazing colleague, Brad Rogers, who is our campus and strategies. Don't we have amazing people here? Campus and strategies practice leader, and he developed an amazing tool, which we're not going to get into all the details, but he's going to give you some.
Great. So thank you, Brooke. So prior to engaging in this project, the city of Salem undertook a facilities master plan, looking at what were the best things to do with all of the school properties. Now this project, it's part of a system, and the decisions that we make here, they're going to have a domino effect. They'll ripple through that system. What we did is we took all of the data from that and brought it into a tool that we can use with you all to help make decisions that allows us to do things like toggle between the current operational model and perhaps other grade configurations, both system-wide, so we can turn that to a PK through 5 district-wide, PK through 6 district-wide, plus the new building. What you're seeing here is the enrollment of the high school and or 7 to 12 building changing versus spreading that out across the system in a PK through 8, PK through 6, different configurations. You can see here this dotted black line, that's the capacity of each of the schools. These bars and those bubbles, that's the enrollment that you get in each of these options. So you can see that even in the 7-12 option, there's quite a bit of capacity on this site, and that creates a lot of extra capacity then at other sites, for example, Collins, unlocking a lot of potential options for how you might use these different sites. Start to think of them creatively. Start to think of them all as assets for the city of Salem, and how you might best use those, understanding that even a dollar saved over here is probably a dollar you're going to have to spend over there at some point. So we'll continue using this model with you all, with the committee, as we think through this decision. But we want to start to get you all in the headspace of thinking of this in terms of not just what it can do for this school, because first and foremost, that is the most important thing we're here to talk about, but also what that means for the site, what other opportunities that might unlock, depending on which decisions you make, and what that might mean system-wide when you see, for example, the excess capacity that's created through that decision.
So he says we, but it was, Brad did this. He's a wizard, and we'll use this tool on, when we have our retreat, to really dive deeper into this, and Brad will join us for that. So thank you for that. We're not going to spend more time than that, but we can do it another time. So thank you for coming in to show us this amazing thing that you created. So a lot of this came up earlier, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the economic benefits, cost efficiency, increased enrollment, a continuous educational path, shared transportation cost, improved graduation rates, so minimizing transition. There's a lot of research and data around minimizing transition to keep students in school. We want to keep students in school. That is a goal. And CTE creates job opportunities and employment. Why? I think I missed one. Yeah. So we talked about the educational benefits of 7 through 12, continuity. Did I do this one? Yeah, increased opportunities, ease of transition. So these are things that you've heard about before and you talked about in your earlier visioning sessions, but we're bringing it up just as a reminder today. And I wanted to just tell a little bit of a case study. So the Belmont Middle and High School is 7 through 12 facility, and there was a lot of concern from parents around having a 7 through 12, as you can imagine, and I'm sure that's come up here. So we had a great superintendent, and I wish I came up with this little slogan, careful connections and thoughtful separations. So we thought carefully about how that might work in the Belmont Middle High School. We knew that there was more than just talk to people, oh, it'll be fine, don't worry, it's gonna be okay. But we could do real actionable architectural design things to make it actually better for the 7 through 12, 7 and 8 population, 9 through 12. So we created separate identities, so each having their own administration and their own identifiable front door. We created opportunities for students to create a sense of community and place through student art. That was really important, centering students in the process. We also created communities that are right-scaled for the middle school and the high school. This happens to be a middle school space. Where are my students what do you think of that? Where kids they're right next to the admin, so if they're cutting in front of that teacher. So admin is right here, so they're brave. These are real students hanging out. We also know when to have right-size scaled spaces for the middle school, separate from the high school. And it also provided the middle school students with opportunities for amazing resources, and this is one of them in Belmont. I just want to point out something for those people who are interested in this. See up there? We haven't forgotten those back-of-house students. They are on display. We can see them. So there's a beautiful transparency. You should go to this project, and how wonderful it will be for the 7th and 8th graders to have opportunities like this within the school. So there are a lot of examples, a lot more than what's here. We can send these to you, but we're not going to spend a lot of time on this because we want to hear from you. Does everybody have a phone? Is that a crazy question? Of course we have a phone, Brooke. There's no reception? All right, can you go to mentee.com? We'll go to Plan B if you can't. No? You can't? If you have a laptop, you can use that. Anybody get into mentee.com? Okay, so if you're there, go to the code 23182150. So on what? How are my students? Are they getting online? Yeah, the students get on. Okay, and there is a QR code, so. Everybody on? All right. Waiting for us. Okay, let's make it happen, Nikki. So what you're going to do is you're going to tell us what the 7 through 12 challenges and benefits are, and it's going to populate on this screen as you come up with responses. We can see how many people are responding. I think you have unlimited responses, right, Nikki? Unlimited, so you can say, I think it'll be obvious if it's a benefit or a challenge. Let's see. Let's see. Someone give us one, see if we can tell. It's like, we like pop quiz. You good? Okay. All right, look, 3 people said options for shared resources, so that's obviously a benefit. Engagement, I assume that's a benefit, right? Whoever said that? Community, who said community? Oh, what did you mean by community? Bring everyone together, thank you. Challenges are logistics. Thank you for the person who wrote challenges. Logistics. Who wrote that? Logistics. Okay, what are you thinking?
Well, I was thinking about the separate entrances, the management of the cafeteria, the auditorium, the shared spaces. I think those aren't insurmountable, but I think those will need to be
something to think about. Yes. Thank you. Another, shared resources, mentorship. So I imagine you mean that the older kids can mentor the younger kids. Yes, yes. MSBA funding may not come around again, so I assume that's a benefit. Flexible course enrollment, younger kids exposed to older kid things, exposure to things that aren't age appropriate. I think that is a challenge. Challenge onboarding parents, so that is a challenge. We have to convince them if that's the way to go. Benefit, access to amazing shared facilities such as field houses, PACs, etc. Challenges schedule. We already have trouble scheduling. Reducing the number of facilities will be a challenge. Belmont does not start at the same time. Their middle school and high school bells are different start times. Different maturity groups. That's a real thing. That's important to think about. Problems with shared transportation. 28 people have responded. 12th grade mentoring 7th. That's good. Parking and traffic, that's something we have 21 consultants that work with us, 21, maybe 22, and one of them is traffic, so we look to our traffic consultant to deal with that. Keeping middle school and high school students separately. How many people have kids that are middle school and high school ages together? Anybody here? A lot of people, so they are exposed to each other. Retention between 8th and 9th, is that a benefit, someone? Yes, benefit. Access to relationships as students go to high school, what does that mean? Who wrote that? What? Oh, you've got a lot of answers here, yes? Okay, so the easier transitions, and we read a lot about that in the research about how that keeps students in school. One bite at the apple, that is real. Lots of traffic on one site, more efficient and less costly buildings. Transitions for students is a benefit, and the research shows that. Students are already part of the community and are less likely to leave the district. Excellent. Improve our what's this one? Improve our footprint? Okay, submit a little early, Megan. And what were you?
Similar to the other one, like
Efficiency, okay, excellent. Better collaboration among faculty and staff, community-centered activities. Younger kids have easier access to vapes and marijuana because that all happening in the school system. Okay, that might be true. Consolidate space to bring more green space. That's really important as we talk about health and wellness. Minimizing impact of charter. easier on Ben if he isn't going to Collins and Salem High School. Come on, you got to give us some fun things here. That was good. Bob, did you tell us something funny here? Are you going to put? At you. Trying to schedule the shared spaces and be able to use it less, save on resources, opens Collins space to relocate alternative high schools out of deficient lease space. Vertical alignment, wow, you all are good. 32 responses, vertical alignment of curriculum, and I think that's instruction. Following students throughout their academic experiences for a longer duration. That's really important, that the adult can follow you through from 7th grade to 12th grade, and that really is a bonus. You all did a great job. You're going still. We'll keep more students in the district, and that's really important. We want to keep people in Salem. We want kids to come to Salem High School or middle high school. That is really important, and we can attest that new buildings excite everyone. And the kids feel empowered, and we can let you talk to people that are experiencing this firsthand in our buildings. They don't want to go. We had one building, the kids didn't, they were seniors and they didn't want to go home. And the principal couldn't believe it. So builds community and culture, absolutely. Healthier building for more students, that is absolutely true. Heart of the city. Wow. How about, I think we should give this group a round of applause for that. All right, that was fun. Okay. This won't be, oh, I forgot we had this one. Okay, this is 9 through 12 challenges and benefits. I think, did you feel like you answered this already? All right, let's, I think you did. I think you mixed it all in. So we're gonna make Nikki happy and skip over that one because she's probably telling me to keep going. So that was great. So we did that. All right, we're gonna have a little fun. Have you been having fun? Are we doing a good? You guys are great. Okay, we're gonna have even more fun. So with that, Erica, watch Erica. She has been waiting for this all night. Okay, Patrick has his bell. Okay.
I have treats, you have a bell.
Okay, so we're gonna let Patrick and Stephen, you're part of this. They're getting tired of me.
All right, thank you. So it's late. We've had amazing engagement. We're going to start to wrap up. So we're pick something really easy to end with, like solving global climate change in a community that is coastal and has communities that are disproportionately affected by climate change. Great. And we're going to do it in 6 minutes to try to do a little bit better. Start the, no. All right, so we're going to do this through a pop quiz. This is going to be the beginning of many conversations about how we do this and how amazing a project of this scale can be for a community, because this is probably your biggest asset for helping to solve the challenges of climate change in terms of your footprint as a city. And that's why working on high school projects is fantastic. So pop quiz, we got pop art for pop quiz. We're going to test your knowledge. Raise your hand if you know the answer to the question. Students are probably going to get these before adults. You're not allowed to. Design team's not allowed to. Architects have to answer last. So, Neil, you're our fallback. If nobody knows the answer, then Neil's jumping in. So he's going to go home maybe with a lot of candy. So for, first question. Who's got it? That's you, Brooke. All right. What does it mean to decarbonize Salem High School? You may have heard this term in the news, you know, talking about a company you work at. What does it mean to decarbonize Salem High School? Anybody?
This is for candy.
I have Rice Krispie treats. You can also have a wrong answer. It is fine.
You still might get candy.
I believe it means to use less energy, to have less of a footprint.
To reduce or eliminate carbon dioxide emissions.
Am I doing that?
Who's got the clicker? All right, answer is?
To reduce or eliminate carbon dioxide.
Wait, here, you take this.
Yeah, all right. Basically, the short answer is you nailed it. Good use of technology. We moving on?
Well, let's go a little bit deeper. We're talking about reducing carbon dioxide emissions, but we're talking about it holistically in the building. We're not just talking about energy use. We're talking about selecting materials. We're talking about site use. We're talking about soup to nuts, thinking about climate change from a decarbonization point of view, and you're going to hear that through all of our decision-making through the design process.
Question, Patrick. Does it include both the amount of energy using, but also the fuel sources that it's coming from?
Yes, we're going to get there.
Great.
Question number 2. What are ways school buildings release CO2, I'll tell you what CO2 is. Carbon dioxide into our atmosphere. Anthony.
The burning of fossil fuels to heat the building, also transportation.
That got a jingle. Good work.
Yeah.
Crispy?
Anybody? Ooh. This is my exercise for the day.
Chimneys.
Chimneys. That got a jingle. Oh, come on, you're going all the way over here. We only have 6 minutes now.
The energy it takes to create the materials that the building is built out of.
That got a good one. Double treat. Double treat. Come on, people. I'm burning fossil fuel right now running around this room. Anybody?
All right, let's move on. We have 6 minutes. I told Erica that she always runs long. All right, so we're talking about everything, life cycle carbon. It means we're talking about embodied carbon. That means all the carbon that gets sent up into the atmosphere for the things that we make to put in the school, the way people travel to school, the materials that you're sitting on, everything soup to nuts. We're talking about operational carbon. That means the energy used to run the school. That's a big portion of it. Lights, heating, cooling, plug loads in a CTE program, energy intensive spaces. So we're talking about equipment as well. And then we're also talking about end of use. How do we design a building that can be disassembled at the end of its life in a way that's responsible and can be reused? So we're talking about life cycle carbon. They fall into all those categories. In particular, we've heard a goal of zero net energy for the building. So you can see that's a big portion for most schools. That's around 80% of the overall embodied carbon, life cycle carbon of the project. We're looking at zeroing that by creating as much energy year over year on site for the project. And that's what we kind of put in that category, in the B category of system operations. All right, next question. What is the most effective way to save energy in a school?
Geothermal heating?
That was a 1 minute warning, but now she has to answer the question. No? Oh. Turning off your screens actually reduces energy?
That. Turn off the computers. No, I'm just kidding. You have 1 minute. That's my job. This is how we create community.
Well-designed tight envelope. Maximizing passive energy.
While still having good air quality. Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Laura's keeping time.
I know. I'm worried about it. All right, so the first thing, and we heard a few of them already, cost-effective strategies, no-cost strategies. We're talking about making a tight envelope for the building. That's the skin of the building. It's the coat of the building. We want to do these things that are low cost, no cost first. These are the things that don't cost a lot of money to maintain. We set them up for the future. It's about reducing the energy loads within the building first. Only after we do that do we start to think about high-performance systems like geo-exchange systems, air-to-air heat pump systems. These are systems that we will study intensely with you to make the best determination for you as a community in terms of your ability to maintain them, their first costs, their operating costs. After that, we're talking about renewables. We get the building as efficient as we can, then we talk about making energy. We don't talk about making energy until we talk about saving energy. So we're talking about on-site production of energy. And then we're talking about operations, user habits. If you're a faculty, if you're a student, if you're somebody who runs the building, if somebody who uses the building after hours, all these things.
Laura gets a crispy because it's turning off your computer.
All right, Laura. Operations. So we're talking about making good habits, and we're talking about during the design process, engaging everyone in this conversation so that day one, when the doors open, there is a new way of thinking about an energy budget for the school, and everybody is responsible for that.
What role can you play as an advocate for a more sustainable Salem High School and community?
You got 6 Krispies. There's lots of ways.
There are lots of ways.
Continuing to advocate to have student voice as part of these conversations.
Woot woot. That gets a woot woot. Advocates. You're advocates here, people. Do we have to go to Neil? You had a chance, people. You had a chance. Now we're going to the experts. You only have 3 minutes.
Oh, I mean, it's my job to be an advocate for a more sustainable Salem High School, so you can help me do my job by making sure that it's an important part of the project from now until we open the doors.
Thank you. All right. Yes.
We need everybody pulling in the same direction, right? So there are going to be a lot of obstacles along the way. There are going to be a lot of easy ways to say, oh, well, maybe not in my space, maybe not with my area that I influence the building. We need everybody to be thinking about their particular influence within the building and how they can pull in the same direction towards this goal. Because these are goals, zero net energy, that don't happen with silver bullets. There aren't these big solutions that happen that we pull a trigger, spend, and get it done. We need every single person, everybody who's kind of influencing the design of the building over time to pull in the same direction. That's how you get there. It's a million little choices that get us to zero net energy. So keep that in mind as we move through the design process. When we're making these tough decisions, you can't just kind of give yourself a pass on your decision. Everybody's got to be contributing. So.
Okay, I'm going to add something from the health perspective. This is something where we're talking about like climate mitigation. How do we not add additional risk? But I think one way, if you hadn't heard what embodied carbon was before we came today, I think it's also about what are the climate adaptations. It's here, we have wildfires burning in, Massachusetts, and so how is this building actually, a safe place for people? How is it mitigating further risk? This is something that is actually a shared interest in all of us, and so if these terms feel new, Google them. You can, you did, nailed it. And so therefore it is about that education and sharing in well, what can we do about this? Because whether it's flooding, air pollution, all of these different factors, this building can be a part of sort of making a better world, but also just like a direct community of how it's all directly influencing you guys.
Good close.
All right, we are almost there. I'm going to ask our team to collect all of the visioning workshop papers with writings on them and cards. So this is our last, who has the clicker? Who has the packed, that's making me use extra energy, Patrick, over here. All right, so this is our last big exercise together, and I didn't think we were going to get there, but you all are amazing, so we are there. So what we're going to ask you to do is take that secret envelope in front of you and make some space. If our team can help everyone make space by collecting some of the things at the table and moving things aside. And what you're going to do is arrange these spaces on your board. There's actually glue sticks in the little container on your table. You'll see some glue sticks, so, Catherine's got it. Pour it out, pour it out. This table doesn't have pads, but we're getting there. So you should have a big sticky. Can the team help hand out? The team help hand out, because this table is already doing it. So think about critical adjacencies. Stephen, can you put that slide? So you're going to think about teaching and learning, project-based learning, collaboration. Look, I'm going to give you an example. So you're going to take all those things and you're going to make a plan. And this is what some people have done before. So you can write, you can make arrows, you can stick them down. We want to see what your ideas are on how to support those themes that we came up with. And I'll keep this up here. I think so we're going to keep these themes up on the board for you. We've had projects where the results of these were embedded into the project, so don't think this isn't for, did you glue? Wow, okay. All right, Rick's gonna charge us. All right, we're gonna have this group, what table are you? Table 3. I'm trying to get you out of here on time, so if you want to keep going, we can, but you're the chair, make it happen. All right, so I know. We can go a couple minutes later if you want to finish up your exercise. We're going to take pictures of all the sheets because some people didn't, the quality control was down. Oh. I don't know, this is sticking to the, gosh.
A poor carpenter blames his tools.
Yeah, I don't know, Bob, this group, everything's stuck. Everything's stuck with this one, so. Okay, well, the architect had some extra glue skills. That's possible, Rick. All right, Nikki's gonna take pictures of all of your beautiful ideas. If you don't get to report back, we really want you, I wish you could take a card and write some of your ideas out because we want to see them. We could also do it by email. Oh, put your table number somewhere on because we should have a good indication. Okay, everybody, let's look to the front. Put your table number on because we know who you are. We should get a picture of all the tables, everybody at every table. Okay, so group 3, who's gonna present? Three big ideas, not the whole building.
Well, I didn't want to keep working today, so I let the rest of the folks at the table do it. A lot of you know I'm an architect, but I sat back and let them do the work. But the ideas that came out of this were a few different things than some of the things we've heard tonight. The idea of a main entry to create that real sense of arrival that would be for both middle and high school. And then you would divide once you came through that main entry. So I know the Belmont High, middle high school example you showed, but we were just asking the question, can it be the other way? And I think that's a valuable conversation to have at some point. Remember, they don't arrive at the same time. And then building on Z's big concept of CTE on display, we created, as Neil coined it, CTE Central. So all the CTE is at the heart of the plan, and we have a kind of circulation. Doesn't necessarily mean it's round, but we have circulation that goes around that, and then all the other program is clustered around that. The other thing we talked a lot about was how could you make the gym, the auditorium, the black box, the music spaces be accessible during the school day, but then be separate and accessible, but closed down from the rest of the school during evening events, plays, music performances, etc. And Ben, I got your loading dock in there.
That was great. All right, next group. Okay, yes. Next group, come on up. We're going to get through everyone before we go. Our team, help out, please. Let's get the next group. Come on. Thank you. All right, let's get the next group up here. Let's try to get through these because these are amazing ideas. All right, 3 big ideas. Nikki, they're making us do all the work. Okay.
I swear, I retired. I vowed never to do this again. So we thought that there would be a high school entry and a middle school entry, a spine that would then take some of the more public areas like the auditorium, the gym, and band and chorus, so that group together, black box, and then a kitchen that would actually service sort of the larger spaces so that they can be multi-purpose for other kinds of events for the public, as well as service the cafeteria. Somebody will have to figure out where the loading dock is. That'll be the loading dock team. And then broadly, it's on the first floor, there would be 11 and 12. On the second floor, 9 to 10. And we asked that specifically to the educators, and they thought that they should be on an upper floor, sort of dropping down as they mature in their academic lives, and 7 and 8. And then embedded within the 9 and 10 classrooms, there would be science labs, computer labs, engineering labs. And then in the 11, 12, there would be some of the CTE spaces, the larger spaces, and then also in 7, 8. So these core pods would sort of look alike, but they would be grouped in 7 and 8, 9 and 10, 11 and 12 on the first floor. We added things, more guidance space. We didn't see guidance space. We added a mindfulness space. We thought that programmatically that might be something that the school might consider as a program space. And then the early ed and care would be sort of off to the side as it is now with its own entry, mostly for ease of accessing and egressing out. And I think that's it.
Thank you so much. These are great themes. I think Margaret's taken some notes, and of course it's on TV, so we can go back and revisit what you have to say. Whose group is this? Is the number on the page? Group 4. Here you go, Kim. I don't know if we'll get through everyone unless you want to stay, but we'll try.
So we said a couple of the same things, but some of the different design principles we had is putting the black box not with the art studio, but in the academic classes. We thought that was important. We wanted to kind of mirror what we liked about Belmont and having the gym, cafeteria, sort of like these big spaces in the middle so they're accessible by both groups of kiddos. And another thing that was different from what we'd heard before is making sure the outdoor space was in where the auditorium is, so that families, as they come to enjoy the fine and performing arts shows, have a place to congregate outside that's as beautiful as the music that's happening inside.
Thank you. And what's great is you're building on what has been said and you're providing new information. So, okay, and there were some spaces missing. We know, we're seeing if you saw it, Perla, right? Okay, I hear you. Next group. Brad's got group number 7. Let's someone come up and give us some ideas that haven't been said before. I think if we focus on that and we build on what was said before. Thank you, Laurie, for coming up. Oh, this is very tidy. There you go.
Truly, we're still a work in progress. I don't know, we were just trying to figure out where we wanted things to go, obviously. So we definitely like the idea of having the administrative suite in the front. We did like different categories. A lot of outdoor space. I don't know, this, again, we're a work in progress. Just saying. We need more time. Yeah, but there's no classrooms on here. The history teacher over here. We don't need classrooms. No, we do, but yeah.
On stickies, that would be great, just so we have your themes, but we have it. I think we'll do 2 more, so we're on track, and we have one last mentee, which will take about 3 minutes. So you all are doing great. I did not expect to get through this. We will be collecting these. All right, here you go.
I actually don't know what we did. We were like throwing things down on the thing, and this is like draft number 18,432 for us. But we were trying to think about some logistical things that would want to, like, what rooms need to be on the outside because things like lumber are being loaded into a classroom, or a community member is bringing their car in for an oil change. So we tried to be strategic with, like, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna say that this is like our ground floor, you know, with like a community entrance, and on one side are your performing arts and on one side is the gym. Whether or not that's the student entrance separate from community entrance, I've been in a lot of different school buildings that have different models like that, but we tried to be really intentional about, you know, thinking big, and here's our auditorium and black box, and then there's a scenic shop where the students are building the scenery for whatever's going on. And whether or not that's cross-curricular with carpentry and carpentry stays over there, or it, you know, is next door, is yet to be determined. But that's sort of where we went, was what needs to be on the outside of the building versus what can be on the inside of the building. And Lori, we also didn't put any classrooms on ours because we felt that thinking about different buildings that we've seen, you know, not that the classrooms are an afterthought, but when you're thinking about spaces that the most students access, you gotta start with your big spaces and then worry about your smaller spaces, because those can also be stacked on top of each other. I did shamelessly plug that performing arts spaces have double high ceilings.
We'll keep that in mind. All right, the last group. What number are you? Number 9. Does anyone want to go who hasn't gone after number 9? Okay, we'll do yours. Cheating. We like a little cheater. Oh, here you go.
It's all in how you use the space, everybody. So we looked at a few different things. We had separate entrances for 9 through 12 and 6 through 8, but thinking sort of about the front of the building and a lot of community spaces that we have, so access to the theater, black box, sort of those things are sort of in the center near there. But really being specific, like Ben said, about shops that need access to outdoor space. So you'll notice a lot of our CTE shops are sort of on the perimeter. Thinking about what shared spaces could live between the two schools, those are really in the center of the design. So the gymnasium, the media center, as I said earlier, the auditorium. We do have 2 separate admin suites. They are at the front of the building, but probably thinking about the different entrance, we'd move theirs over there. We also didn't have classrooms until the end, and we panicked and started just sticking them in between. But honestly, as you start thinking about flexible spaces and where things go, I think it makes a lot of sense to sort of have them dispersed throughout the building. And then we were really intentional about making sure that we had outdoor spaces that were accessible.
Okay, the last group, table 8, and I think we didn't get to a few, but we will collect your ideas. Oh, Bob, get up here. Come on, Bob. Try. Okay, she's coached you?
Yeah, we've been trying to prepare as well, listening to other people, so. Okay, so this is what happens when you have 2 sisters. One is very interested in the computer labs and the science, and the other is making up new arts programs on the fly. So this is a spoke design. This just happened. So we have access to the auditorium in this public space, access from here for gym stuff, the computer labs and technology for adult programs, automotive here. Instead of coming up with just one entrance, have entrances for night programs and adult programs from the outside. And then we just put the administration up here because didn't really know where to put it. Doesn't really fit into our plan here, but that's basically what it is.
Spoke. All right. Oh, Chris.
We added a dance studio to the array of arts.
Yes. Recess for middle schoolers. Okay. All right, everyone. It is 8:33. We have one 3-minute exercise, and you will be released. And we are just so thrilled how we got through this, and that is a testament to all of you in the room. So where's my clicker? Last thing, it is going to be, I don't know if someone can grab this. It's a mentee exercise. Someone want to grab this? And it's sharing one blue sky aspirational idea that you love. Is people already on Mentee already? Join the mentee.com. Use the code 23182150. 23182150. Move this. All right, let's get going. Just move it away so people can see the whole thing. All right, let's end this amazing session with some of your blue sky ideas. One person has put this: vocational skills, laundry, cooking. And the words that come up more frequently are bigger. So if more people say a word or an idea and it's bigger, that's because more people said it. So mental health, Google Office Space, zero net energy. They were listening, Patrick. Flexibility, learn from the space, making a learning opportunity. Cooking, oh, I said that. Laundry, making global connections. Multi-district collaboration, adult education, sunlight, joy. Who said joy? Thank you. Who said it? Thank you. Yes, and we're having fun here. Learn from the space, globally connected media. Wow, whew, this is fast. Open walls, did someone say, you are so fast, people, belonging, that's the biggest word. That means more people have said the word belonging. Collaboration, outdoor spaces, energizing, global connected media, dispersed CTE, career ready, unity, arts, vocational skills, mental health is getting big, community is really big, flexibility, we should have talked more about that, but hopefully you know this will be a flexible school. Inviting, private spaces, did I say adult education? Welcoming spaces, there's 30 responses, looks like more than 30 people have responded, so, but you can enter as many ideas as you like. Sunlight, very important for health and mental health. Pride, we haven't talked a lot about pride, but that's important. We showed you a slide that creates community. Opportunity, functional, making learning fun. We had fun tonight learning, right? Right, Catherine? Thank you. World of tomorrow, wraparound services. Visible back of house, so it won't be back of house, it'll just be everything's visible. How about making the mechanical room visible so kids can see and teachers can see what goes on in there? Those spaces are actually really nice now. Performance, and this just goes on. And I want to thank all of you, keep going, but thank all of you for your participation tonight. This was really amazing, and I want to thank my amazing colleagues who made all this happen with me, and this was absolutely everything we could hope for. You are a great community. We are so excited to work with you. You have great ideas, and I hope we can do it again, and we'll do versions of this. But we'll send a survey out, and we learned a lot tonight, and we'll work with your students because we know they're excited. But we won't make Nikki cut out all those shapes because she will have a breakdown. We're going to make your students do it. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us tonight. The participation was great. We learned a lot, and we will document this. I know Margaret's been typing away back there. She's quiet, but she's typing. So thank you all. Thank you to the culinary students. Thank you for Salem TV. I'm not sure the proper name, but thank you for your work tonight. Thank you for the custodial folks who put all these beautiful tables together and made this room look so inviting. Thank you all, and have a great night.